Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video, doing the second summer 2020 update for today's first video. So we're going to be talking about winter to summer data today. So of course last week the first update focused on February data, but we've broadened that out now to cover the summer. So we'll begin with analogues for the central temperature, the CET. That'll be the first batch analogues we look at for the winter through to summer, and then we will have a look at England and Wales precipitation, rainfall for the winter, and then look at the analogues for those relevant summers as well. It will all become apparent what we're doing as we go along, so I'll get on that for you very shortly. Just to say that, as always, with the long range updates, it could be a long video, so if you can't watch it in one go, then don't worry, it will be kept at website, we'll be kept at garethoffice.com indefinitely, and of course on the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to come back and have a watch whenever you want on demand. I've written for the Gareth Office YouTube channel or at website, have a read of written summary that I'm going to place on the summer updates page this evening. I've got to say a big thank you to our good friend Richard Trott for the summer updates GIF, and also say hello and thank you very much for all of your help over the past years to James at Krill Analogues Guru. James is on the sick bench at the moment, had an operation, but he will be back very, very soon. So big thank you to James for all of James's help, and of course a big thank you to Richard as well. Gazworthy's Sunday Roundup will be coming up later on this afternoon. That'll be your eclectic mix of this and that, and that will be around or after lunch. I've got the date for the summer 2020 forecast, and I'll give that to you in a moment. But before I do anything else, I'm going to have a bit of a rant. So I'm recording this video at around 20 to 10 on Saturday evening. That's pretty early for me, but most of the evening today, Saturday evening, has been taken up by trying to work out what had gone wrong with my computer, my PC. So I'm going to talk about that before I do anything else. It's fixed now, but the issue was, I'm going to get rid of all of that. The issue was an update that was sent through, a Windows update that was sent through earlier on today, this afternoon, by Microsoft for the new version of Microsoft Edge. Now, I don't hardly ever use Microsoft Edge. I only use it for website development purposes, so it doesn't really matter to me whether I even have Microsoft Edge on my machine. But I didn't have any choice about updating this. It was ready and waiting, and the next time I shut down the machine, it was going to download the new version of Microsoft Edge. So I did that this afternoon, and it caused all sorts of problems with the machine, with the computer, well, with the browser really. My main browser is Google Chrome. That became virtually unusable on a lot of websites. This new version of Microsoft Edge rendered Windows Chrome virtually unusable on a lot of websites after it had installed. And as it became apparent, because I thought it might just be Chrome that had got the problem, but I tried the new version of Edge as well, and that had the same problem. Then I tried Firefox. You'll notice I do have lots and lots of browsers here, as you have to if you are a web owner, a website owner, and you're making updates to your website. You have to have lots of browsers. So I've got Firefox, Opera, well, I've got Chrome, I've got Microsoft Edge, I've got Safari. So as I went along through those browsers this afternoon, it became apparent that this new version of Edge was actually rendering all of those other browsers unusable on a lot of websites, including my own, garethoffice.com, and also on YouTube. So I was absolutely tearing my hair out trying to work out what the problem was. I was attempting to do Google searches, but of course that was all running very, very slowly. And basically for around 2 or 3 hours, the machine, in terms of the internet anyway, was unusable. And I was beginning to think that maybe I was going to have to start clearing my cache and that sort of thing. But I thought before I did anything too drastic, I would just shut down the machine and restart it, and that did it. So whatever came through with the update with whatever came through with the update with Edge, a new version of Microsoft Edge, there must have been some secondary update that needed to take effect before everything will start working again. So quite what happened, I don't know. If anybody can shed any light on this in the comments, then do please let me know. I'd love to know why installing a new version of Microsoft Edge should render all other web browsers unusable. The other thing I did notice, which was quite strange, was that where is it? So yeah, the Windows security thing just here, that wouldn't work. So I tried to I noticed that it was showing that it needed it's recommending changes needed to be made. I tried to open that wouldn't open. So whatever it was, whatever happened with that install of Microsoft Edge, a new version of Microsoft Edge, rendered for around 2 hours the machine unusable. As far as the internet is concerned anyway, all browsers were affected. And it was very, very strange, and all that got round it was just shutting down the computer and starting it up again. A full shutdown, had to do a full shutdown, starting it up again, and whatever it had to install when it was doing that restart, it installed, and that allowed everything to start working. No problems now. But thank you, Microsoft, for well, not exactly ruining my evening, but certainly making my evening a lot more stressful than it needed to be. A big thank you, Microsoft, for doing that. Right, so that's my little rant out of the way. I'm going to get on now with the second summer 2020 analogs update. Just to say that we have got the date for the summer forecast now. So Gazlo's summer 2020 forecast is going to be released on Sunday the 31st of May. It'll be Sunday the 31st of May. We'll be releasing GavsWeathers.com Summer 2020 forecast on the last day of May and the last day of mid-tropical spring as well. So there we go. You've got the date for your diary. Right, so let's get on with it then. And we're going to be talking about the central temperature first of all. So the CET for winter 2019-2020 came out at 6.16, and so we are going to start off this first batch of analogs looking at winter CETs ranging from 5.5 to 6.7. It's a very mild winter, but not anywhere near the mildest, actually. The very mildest winter is 6.7 for the CET. So we're going to be looking at summers following winter CETs 5.5 to 6.7. And our first summer within this range, following a winter CET of 5.5, 6.7, is going to be summer 1846. So this is quite an anticyclonic summer with above average heights sitting over to the east of the country, below average heights out to the northwest, and sending a jet stream a little bit like that. So yes, this is it's a relatively anticyclonic. If I'm a little bit unsure, it's because I've had such a stressful evening. So just bear with me. I'm a little bit still trying to get a head around everything that I'm doing. And that's because I've had a rather stressful evening, to say the least. So just bear with me on that. But yes, the summer of 1846 was very nice, anticyclonic, and a lot of dry weather on offer in that summer. Our next summer, following a winter CET range of 5.5 to 6.7, is 1863. This one very different. This one has a strong blocking signal, lots of above average heights to the north and plenty of below average heights to our south and southeast. And yes, we're bringing in the wind from a northeasterly direction, so you would expect this to be quite a cold and wet summer in 1863. The next summer, following a CT range of 5.5 to 6.7, is the summer of 1869. Of course, this follows the mildest winter on record, and that does hold the CT at 6.7. It's the mildest winter on record. It's the winter of 1868, 1869. Absolutely remarkable that even now that winter hasn't been beaten, 1868, 1869, but the CT remains the warmest winter on record. The summer of 1869 isn't too bad at all. Now, it has a hot summer before it in 1868, very hot summer then. This one isn't as hot, but it's not too bad, really. It has above average heights over to west of the country, so a lot of the time we are bringing in sort of coolish air from the northwest. And just a lot of usable dry weather, really, through this summer of 1869. It's a nice summer, of course, very overshadowed by the hot summer before it in 1868, but in its own terms, it's not a bad summer at all, following the mildest winter on record. Our next summer is 1877, and this one is very, very unsettled, with the below average heights coming in off the Atlantic. Very, very strong westerly jet stream being unleashed there as well in the summer of 1877. No real apparent trend yet. The next summer is 1899, following that winter CT range of 5.5 to 6.7. This one, again, not a bad summer at all. Above average heights centred over or just to the north of the country, below average heights out to the west and also to the east. The jet stream is doing something like that. So this is a very nice summer, I think, in 1899. We had a lot of dry and warm, at times quite hot, and very usable weather. Quite a long gap then to 1920, so the next time we have a summer following a CT, winter CT of 5.5, 6.7, is the summer of 1920. This one is very unsettled. It's a cool and unsettled summer with below average heights centred across not just the UK, but much of northern and western Europe. A bit of a blocking signal up to the north as well. Jet stream is pushed southwards, and yeah, that's a pretty poor summer in 1920. Our next summer is 1923. This one with above average heights down to the southwest, below average heights up to north. It's a relatively dry summer, I think, and not too bad at all. That's quite a nice summer, 1923. Then we've got 1925. This time, again, a bit of an anticyclonic signal, really, with above average heights sort of over to the north and the west of the country, below average heights to our south and southeast. Jet stream is going to be doing something a little bit like that. So probably quite a coolish summer in 1925. I would think the mean wind direction is going to be coming in that sort of direction. So probably quite a coolish summer. But again, anticyclonic signal, so you would have thought a reasonable amount of dry weather in the summer of 1925. Summer 1935 shows up next. Again, this one is following the wind CT range of 5.5 to 6.7, with below average heights out to the northwest of the country and the jet stream doing something a little bit like that. Rather more of an unsettled summer in 1935, but I think there are some heat waves actually in that summer. It's not a bad summer really. Quite a few of the summers in the 1930s were pretty good, and that's not too bad a summer. 1943 is our next summer, again following that CT range of 5.5 to 6.7 in the winter. And this one with below average heights sort of over to the north country, above average heights down to our southwest. Looks more of a westerly type pattern, flat westerly. So a rather unsettled summer perhaps in 1943. 1949 is a nice summer though. This one has above average heights centred across much of Western Europe, below average heights out to our west and also to our northeast. We're doing something like that with the flow with the jets, or on the mild side of the jets, under a ridge of high pressure. Quite a hot summer actually to end the 1940s. Not a bad summer at all. Then we've got the summer of 1957. Next, this one is a much cooler and much more unsettled summer overall, with below average heights across the north and western Europe and above average heights up in towards Greenland through the North Atlantic. The thing with this summer, though, is it does have quite a hot start. It has a notably hot spell in June. Very, very hot temperatures in June. Once that breaks, though, the rest of the summer, July and particularly August, really quite cool and unsettled. Therefore, it's a classic front-loaded summer where most of the dry and hot weather is in the front part of the summer in June, and then it deteriorates, and as we go through to the latter part of the summer, it's actually an early autumn. Another quite long gap then to 1975. So the summer of 1975, the first of the two very hot summers in the middle of the 1970s, looks like this. And yes, it does have a high pressure signal. Anticyclonic weather is sitting over the country, and the winds are coming in from a hot easterly direction overall. Of course, it has a very cold start. There's snow at the beginning of June 75, but once that goes, the rest of the summer is basically dry and hot. It has a very hot August in 1975 with the CET above 18 degrees Celsius. And can you believe it, it was followed by another really hot summer in 1976. So this one is summer of 1989, another fairly long gap again. This is the third warmest winter on record for the CET. This one, again, it's not a bad summer at all. It has above average heights centred over just the west of the country, below average heights up to the north. Jet stream doing something a little bit like that. So, yes, it's a very decent summer indeed in 1989. It has a hot July in particular, but it's a very extended summer. So, I mean, it begins as early as May 1989, very warm and dry May, and it's still going on in September and October of 1989 as well. A classic extended, very warm and dry summer. Maybe we have got a little bit of a trend here. Who knows? Possibly a little bit of a trend here for warm summers to be following mild winters. Possibly we have. This is the summer of 1990. Again, another very, very nice summer. The overall sort of analogue doesn't look anything particularly impressive. It has above average heights just to our southwest, below average heights out to the northwest. And we bring in a flat westerly flow. Doesn't tell you everything you need to know about this summer, though, because it does have quite and there is a bit of a northern blocking signal as well, by the way, up to the north. And all of that is happening because June 1990 is quite poor. But there's a rapid improvement through July, and as we get to the end of July into August, we have a classic hot spell. August 1990 is a very hot month indeed. And look at this, we've got another one, 1995, showing up next following the winter CET range of 5.5 to 6.7. This one, classic summer, high pressure centred over the top of the country, winds in from the east. It's a very dry summer. It's actually slightly drier summer in 1995 than the daddy of hot summers, which was 1976. It is... it is a slightly drier summer than 1976, not quite as hot, but of course we don't get the severe drought 1995, although there are drought conditions, but it's not as severe as 1976 because it was coming off the back of quite a wet period actually. The winter of 94-95 was very wet, and so the overall impacts on the summer of 1995 weren't too drastic, not compared to 76, but that said, it's a very, very classic summer. Bit of a forgotten summer, I think. A lot of hot and dry weather during the summer of 1995. Again, with a hot August, and it begins in late June. It just goes on and on right to the end of August. Now, here's a poor one. So, we've had quite a few decent summers in this package of analogues, but we've got a bad one here. This is the summer of 1998, again, following that winter CET range of 5.5, 6.7. This one with a mid-Atlantic ridge out to our west, a trough of below average heights, centred pretty much over and to the east of the country, winds in from the northwest. It's a cool and unsettled summer in 1998 with a very wet June. But next summer, again, it's a very bad one. It's even worse than 1998. It's 2007. We know about this, of course. We talked about it quite a bit last week. It has blocking to our north, a trough of below average heights over to the south of the country. Winds are in from the east to the northeast. It's a cold and wet summer, exceptionally wet summer in 2007. And then the next summer is going to be 2008. This one also is very bad. So all of a sudden, we've got to the more sort of recent summers, actually. You might think that as we go along, the summers will get better, but we've got to the more recent summers, and suddenly it's all going down the pan. This one is another very, very poor summer indeed, with a trough of low pressure stuck over top of the UK, bags of northern blocking over Greenland. If it can go wrong, it does go wrong. It's not as wet as 2007, it does have that going for it, but otherwise it's one to forget. It's a very cool and wet summer in 2008. Then we've got 2014 showing up next. This one has quite a lot of northern blocking and a weak trough of below average heights to our south. This is a bit front-loaded, a lot of pleasant weather through June, very warm conditions in June. But then things start to go wrong. It has a really poor August. And then we've got the summer of 2016, following, of course, the second mildest winter on the CT, I believe, which was 2015-2016. So, yes, this one very unsettled, again, really, with below average heights through from the west. A little bit different with this one, though. It has below average heights to the south. And a bit different with this one in that it's rather front-loaded. So this one has, rather back-loaded, I should say. We've seen quite a few front-loaded summers in this package of analogues. This one, though, is rather backloaded in that the driest and warmest weather in 2016 happens late in the summer, in August and even into September. Very hot temperatures in September of 2016. And then we've also got 2019, of course, last summer. Again, following that wind CT range of 5.5, 6.7. This one, rather a bizarre summer, really. It has a very strong northern blocking signal, so you'll see all of these red colours over green, which would normally be a very, very bad signal in summer. It does also have a trough of below average heights very close to the UK, so it's an unsettled summer with northern blocking. However, it's also a very warm summer with regular heat wave due to this ridge that's across many central parts of Europe and extending into the northern blocking, and it keeps the wind coming up from the south, so we get regular plumes and heat waves moving out of Africa, pushing northwards, and so it's a very unstable summer. It's unsettled, but it is also at times very hot, and of course it does contain the hottest maximum temperature in the UK's history, which I think occurred on the 25th of July 2019. Right, so putting all of that together, this is how all Junes combined are looking following a winter CET range of 5.5 to 6.7. This is how all Junes combined are looking, and it has sort of anticyclonic signal, but a little bit to the north. So there is a bit of a northern blocking signal, but it's sort of ridging down into the UK with below average heights to the west and also to the east. That leaves us probably drawing in sort of southeasterly type winds. So overall, an anticyclonic signal. So that's the main thing to say about all of these Junes following very mild winters, the mildest winters, I suppose. They do tend to be rather anticyclonic. There's quite a bit of dry weather on offer, and you would have thought probably quite warm as well on average. That's how all Julys combined are looking, following that winter CT range of 5.5, 6.7. Above average heights then just to our southwest, below average heights to our northwest. It looks like it could be a little bit more unsettled. Perhaps surprisingly, looks like it could be a little bit more unsettled in the Julys compared to the Junes. That's because we have got quite a few front-loaded summers, I think, within this package of analogues. So you get the driest, warmest weather in June, and then there's a bit of a deterioration in July. That's how all August combined are looking. So in August, again, quite an anticyclonic sort of signal. The high pressure tends to be just a little bit to the west of us, but there's not much in it really. Below average heights to the northeast. You will think on average we're probably bringing down quite cold northerly winds, but I think a lot of those Augusts are probably having high pressure centering somewhere around here, and the exact position of the ridge, of course, is critical. Overall, though, a relatively decent package of analogues this for summer. Most of these summers appear to have some sort of anticyclonic signal and probably favouring relatively dry conditions overall. And I think we see this with the all summers combined charts. This is how all summers combined are looking when we put them all together. Following a winter CT range of 5.5, 6.7, we tend to set up an anticyclonic signal very close to the country. Again, perhaps a little bit on the cool side with quite a few of these summers as winds could be coming in from the northeast. There is a bit of a northern blocking signal, but I think we have to take what we can get, and that to me is one of the most encouraging analogues packages for summer that we've seen for a little while with these summer updates. So I don't think that is a bad one at all, really. That bad analogues package at all in terms of summer conditions. Yes, there are a few in there, but the washouts, and particularly, perhaps a little bit alarmingly, the more recent ones, like 2007 and 2008, for example. But overall, I think a relatively, you want a dryish and sort of warmish summer, overall a relatively pleasant analogues package with those summers following the mildest winters. Right, going to pause the video there, and we'll meet back in a moment, and we'll talk a little bit about precipitation as well, because of course we know we've had a very, very wet winter of 2019, 2020, so we'll see what the summers are like following those extremely wet winters. More in around 2 seconds time. Okay, we're back, and we're ready to resume the second summer 2020 analogues update. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Don't forget to give us a like on the video. Let us know in the comments what you think, and don't forget to subscribe to the Gavs Weathervids YouTube channel. And thanks so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, in the first part of the video, we was talking about the CT. We were talking about the mildest winters on record, essentially, and the summers that follow those winters. Now we're going to talk a little bit about precipitation data. So the winter 2019-2020 England and Wales precipitation came out at 374 millimetres. Exceptionally wet winter, of course. 374 millimetres in 3 months is a huge total. Not the wettest winter on record, though. Far from it. The wettest winter on record actually has 455.5 millimetres, so quite a bit short of it, actually. We're going to look at summers following the wettest winters for England and Wales precipitation. And our range is 340 millimetres to 455 millimetres. We're going from like the least wettest to the wettest with this. So the least wettest coming out at 340 millimetres. Very wet winter, of course, but the least wettest winter for this package of analogues is the winter of 1976-1977. And the summer of 1977 looks like this. It has above average heights out to the northwest, below average heights to the south, bringing wind from a northeast direction, and quite unsettled too. All thoughts of a very hot summer following 1975 and the Daddy 1976 were very quickly snuffed out, I think it's fair to say, by the summer of 1977, which was back to business as usual, which of course for the UK is relatively poor in the summer. The next summer is 1937. Remember, we've got an England and Wales precipitation range of 340 to 455 millimetres. We are going from the least wettest to the wettest winter with this. Summer 1937 has quite an anticyclonic season, actually, above average heights across the UK and much of northern Europe, below average heights out to the northwest. I don't think that's a bad summer at all in 1937. 1866 is our next summer, and this one has below average heights over UK and much of Western Europe, above average heights out to the northwest. This is obviously very much unsettled summer, very cool and potentially very wet summer in 1866. The next summer, with this following this England and Wales winter precipitation range of 340 to 455 millimetres, is the summer of 1916. This one also looks cool and unsettled, with below average heights over and to the east and north of the British Isles, above average heights out to west. Jet streams pushed south. Was a cool, wet summer in 1916. The next summer is 1960. This one also looks unsettled. Very different analogues package, this, for precipitation compared to the CT analogues in the first part of the video. This one with northern blocking sitting to our north, below average heights over the UK as a trough, and jet stream push south. Was a cool and wet summer in 1960. Next up, we've got 2016, following, of course, the winter of 2015, 2016. That was exceptionally mild winter, also very wet winter too. We've already talked about this in the first part of the video. There will be some overlap, by the way, with some of those very mild winters, also with the wettest winters. So we talked about this summer. It's rather backloaded. The driest, hottest weather is in August and even into September in 2016. Again, there's 1869, that's also showing up. So not only was the winter of 1868, 1869 the warmest winter on CT record, it was also a very, very wet winter as well, falling within our range of 340 to 455 millimeters. We've explained that this one is rather overshadowed by the summer before it. 1868 was a very hot summer. This one isn't as hot, but it does have quite an anticyclonic signal, and it's not a bad summer in its own terms. There's a lot of warm and dry weather to enjoy in 1869. 1994 is our next summer. This one with below average heights out to the northwest, above average heights over and to the east and south of the country. Winds are kind of southwesterly to, at times, quite southerly. It's actually quite a hot summer, especially so in June and July. August does go a little bit down the tubes, but overall that's a pretty decent summer in 1994. Many of the summers in the 1990s were hot summers, and that's one of them. And they've got 1995 showing up again, and this one, as we explained in the first part of the video, is a hot and dry summer with the above average height centered over top of the country, winds in from the east. It begins late in June and it's still going on late in August, so you have about 2 months, a little bit more perhaps than 2 months of very hot and dry weather with barely any rainfall parts of the country. So the third wettest winter for England, Wales precipitation is the winter of 1877. Remember, with our analogues, you go back to 1836, by the way. We can't go any further back than that. So it is possible that going further back in 1836, there might be a wetter winter than 1877. But within our range, which is from 1836 to 2019, this is our third wettest winter of 1876, 1877. The summer of 1877, it turned up in the first part of the video, is an unsettled summer, low pressure dominating from off the Atlantic, a lot of cool and wet weather in the summer of 1877. The second wettest winter for England, Wales precipitation is the winter of 1989-1990. And the summer of 1990, again, I've explained, it turned up in the first part of the video. Below average heights to the northwest, above average heights to the south-southwest. Doesn't look much, and that's because it has a relatively unsettled June. But when it gets going, it's a bit of a late starter. When it gets going, the summer of 1990 is a classic hot summer. And then finally, we've got the wettest winter on record for England and Wales precipitation. At least as far back as 1836 anyway, and it is the winter of 2013-2014. And so the summer of 2014, again, it's there in the first part of the video, the CT data. This one has the above average heights to our north, below average heights to our south, winds probably quite easterly, pretty warm and dry July, quite a hot June I should say. And then it starts to go downhill and has a very cool and unsettled August in 2014. And then finally, bringing all of that together, this is how all Junes combined are looking following England and Wales precipitation of 340 to 455 millimetres. And for the Junes, we again see a bit of an anticyclonic signal. High pressure sits over to the west of the country, below average heights up to the north. Jet streams push northwards as well. You will think quite a bit of dry weather through those Junes. Not too bad a signal at all. All Julys combined, similar to what we saw with the CT data really. A little area of above average heights to our southwest, a little area of below average heights to our northwest, and overall just looks like there might be a bit of a deterioration taking place. There's something a bit more unsettled in the Julys compared to the Junes, and that's carried on into the August. So yes, those those winter to summer analogues for precipitation do suggest front-loaded summer, really. This one with a bit of blocking appearing by the time we get through to all August, combined with below average heights to our south. Looks like the jet stream is probably digging southwards as well. Just a more unsettled and rather cool and unsettled signal for August. Bear in mind there will be years that deviate from that. For example, we've got 1995 within the analogues package, but of course is a very, very hot and dry August. So there'll be years that deviate, but putting them all together, putting all of those summers together, all August combined, don't look particularly impressive. And then finally, this is how all summers combined are looking following England and Wales precipitation of 340 to 455 millimetres, and we tend to get below average heights to our south, above average heights to the north. I think the suggestion is definitely there that the earlier part of the summer is the best part in terms of dry and pretty warm weather, and then things deteriorate a little bit later on into the summer. And that's it. That rounds up the second summer 2020 analogues update. Quite interesting data, I think, there. Particularly, most strikingly, and I was a bit surprised I saw the data, but the data doesn't lie. Particularly those CT analogues, with CT to summer analogues. They are definitely favouring a more anticyclonic signal for this summer. And probably the precipitation analogues favour rather front-loaded summer with the warmest, driest weather early on, and then a bit of a deterioration later. It's all food for thought. Of course, got many more updates to do before we get to the summer forecast, which, as I said at the start of the video, will be released on the 31st of May. So plenty more updates to go, and we'll just see how the data continues to evolve. Right, so that's it for the second summer 2020 update. Now, later on, we're going to have Gazov's Sunday Roundup. That'll be your usual eclectic mix of this and that. Be your Sunday afternoon viewing pleasure, as long as nothing else goes wrong with the browsers or the computer, of course. This video will be placed on the summer 2020 updates page. There'll be a written summary that goes through it as well, and I'll try to get that up for you this evening. 36 minutes, though. That's it for the second summer 2020 update, and thanks for watching.